Steve Cohn is an honorable man. He worked with us in our neighborhoods for 18 years. There were times that we would disagree, but we were never disagreeable. Steve often spoke about Crime Watch and our efforts here to work with our police officers and our neighbors to improve the quality of life in Midtown. But we ran into a problem, and the problem was simply this: the lack of credibility of statements being made on the public record about the nature of policing in our Midtown neighborhoods. This was an exchange at City Council. Unfortunately, when the public testifies on the record and brings up issues and council people address them like they used to do, because we were then allowed to actually engage our elected representatives in open council sessions, which we can no longer do. However, when we talked about police staffing, this is what Councilmember Cohen passed along to those who were in the council chambers that night.
Two other areas I want to talk about were two of the ones that Dave talked about already. One is the on the police and the MPO issue. I certainly have been hearing this issue in all the neighborhoods I represent, even though people appreciate that the patrol districts have shrunk, giving patrol officers more time to, a smaller area that they have to patrol, which is certainly very positive, and I don't think that there's any debate about that. But the loss of having a neighborhood police officer has been felt very strongly in the neighborhoods I represent, and so I would like to revisit that and see what can be done, whether we can have our cake and eat it too, I guess, is one way of looking at it.
Now, when I met privately with Mr. Cohn, I laid these maps out in front of him. He was shocked. He said, "That can't be." I pressed him for some answers. Who told you that the patrol districts had been made smaller so we would have more officers to help us deal with rising crime at the time? He named the source, Deputy Chief Matt Powers of the Sacramento Police Department. I want to add that we liked Mr. Cohn. We didn't have an opportunity to vote for his replacement. Our council district was gerrymandered, we think, for special interest involving the arena. But that aside, the council member that was appointed to replace him was a lame duck with no aspirations to run for office again. What we got instead was Council Member Steve Hansen, who's already demonstrated that of Measure U monies that were coming in this year, he wanted to wait until 2014 during the mid-year budget hearings to release any of that money to our Sacramento Police Department. So here's my question. Are we all supposed to be little clones, little pawns, to be told, shut up, don't ask questions, be nice? Do we, the people, have the right to expect answers to questions that are accurate? Do we, the people, have a right to question government when it sells us on the concept that they need more taxes in order to restore draconian cuts made to public safety in this city, while at election time they say public safety is our number one priority, but during budget hearings they show that that's just not true by slashing and burning our police department and staff that handle those important issues in our city. We call that two-faced. And anyone who sits idly by and accepts that as the norm for this city deserves the kind of police department that they've gotten. We don't have to be nice and we don't have to be polite, but when we do go to council, you generally see that we are. The problem is, they don't listen. They could care less what we have to say, and they have proven that time and time again. If you've ever taken time to sit in a council session and watch people testifying on items either not on the agenda or items that are on the agenda, where we've been now restricted to 2 minutes to make our case. On items on the consent calendar, we're only allowed a total of 2 minutes. So if you object to 4 items on a 24-item consent calendar, you're allowed 30 seconds to address this council on each such item. Oh, and by the way, You might find yourself being escorted out of council chambers by our police officers if you dare address your elected representative and ask pointed questions. You'll be instructed by the mayor that you are to speak to the council as a whole and not address individual council members that you have voted for in the general election. Thank you, Sacramento. You have just shown what a malevolent democracy looks like.
My name's Alan Miller. I'm speaking here today as a citizen and as a daily commuter on the Capitol Corridor. I spoke last week on the station platform move. At one point I looked up and not one council member was looking at me. In Davis, when I speak, all council members make eye contact. I might not be a citizen of Sacramento, but I work here. I use your train station, such as it now is, and I spend money here. I ask your respect.
I'm concerned about the rules passed in January this year that limits the community and limits absentee residents serving our nation in harm's way from having an ability, even though they engage in our city throughout that service and are actively involved in things that we do in our city. They have no voice tonight. So please, let's find a way to either use the rules that allow you on a 2/3 vote to suspend those rules for a legitimate purpose when the community brings you the voices of people who have no voice but serve.
Thank you, Mr. Carter.
You guys are making changes when it comes to the First Amendment.
Mr. Carter,
And when these changes are
your
made,
time is expired.
then these times we must stand up.
Thank you, Mr. Carter, for your comment. No, I'm sorry, Mr. Carter.
The
Your
city
comment.
council
Turn
has
off
the
his
right.
mic.
The people have
Turn
the
off
right
his
to
mic.
address the city council.
Your microphone is no longer on, Mr. Carter. Please sit down.
This is an area that I have some expertise. I want you to know that at the current time, with the current staffing level, the Sacramento Police Department, you have over 6 times as many convicted felons and people on parole as you do police officers. I don't know what you're laughing about over there, folks. It's not funny. Mr. Fong, you're my council member. I didn't vote for you, and I don't make personal attacks here. Mr. Cohen has been my council member for 18 years. We brought a solution to this council many years ago. It was discounted. It was on how to deal with parole. And we have a solution for you today to backfill the budget deficit in the Sacramento Police Department. And I don't know when we're going to be able to present that to you because of the way the scheduling is done in the budget.
Here we go again, City Council. You guys have a tough challenge in front of you. With this realignment issue getting ready to take place, we have a lot of parolees getting ready to hit the streets, coming down to our county jails. The jails are already overflooded, so that means a lot of early releases. Definitely be as diligent as you can to fight any kind of further cuts that we have. And I think I challenged all of you last week, and especially you, our city manager, to look at some of the stuff we have. This gentleman was talking about how you lay out the budget so that we can get these things ahead of time and we can look at things, make recommendations, save what we really need. If you want to be very true and genuine about public safety, it starts here. And please, for the 2 of you that are always snickering when people are talking to you, Laughs Unlimited is an old sack. This is not comedy hour. Thank you. Show some respect.